Hey guys, this is a bit of content that I did on a Facebook Live and a YouTube Live last week, but I thought it'd be useful for the podcast. It follows up with what we've been discussing with Barkus in and around the suspensions. Again, I'm speaking to Anthony Lee just to get the running commentary, get a running update, because things are changing. A lot of stuff is crossing my paths in terms of different ideas and things that's going on. But I think the key thing is we need to keep the ball on the ground. I've yet to actually see, there are two things I want to point out here. I've yet to actually see a suspension related to a URL that is physical proof and a suspension related to promotions, or a suspension with both of them together. So there's a lot of information out there. It seems like the skies are falling, but the reality is there is no categoric proof. Here will be my suggestion. So for all the people out there that says these are causing suspensions, then you're going to have a plan of action to put together. Okay, so this is my suggestion. Show them your inserts, show them your whole flows of everything that you're doing in terms of your plan of action, because you've got nothing to lose. At the end of the day, Amazon wants to know in the plan of action that you understand what you've done wrong. So if you've chased down reviews, if you've got a review sequence, etc., that is a bit suspect, inserts against terms of service, because we can all go onto groups and turn around and say, oh yeah, okay, it was suspended because of this reason, but then not tell the full story. So what I would suggest, if you truly believe that and you feel like you've been suspended for the wrong reason, show Amazon in your plan of action and then share that across the groups and everywhere else. Then that way people will be able to see, because if you get reinstated again, then that's fantastic. And what have you got to lose? If you've been suspended anyway and you're not going to get back on the platform, you've got nothing to lose. So there's no reason why you couldn't put a plan of action together and show each step, show your bot flows and everything to Amazon. Anyway, rant over. I'm going to hand over to the show now. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. It's a live broadcast on YouTube. Today I bring in Anthony Lee. Hey Anthony, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
We were doing a Facebook Live earlier, and I just wanted to bring the conversation over onto YouTube to the audience and the guys here. Let's have a little recap. I had Barkus on the show, which the guys on YouTube would have heard if they listened back to back episodes. We were talking about this situation where the suspensions have been happening over the last couple of weeks or so. So this screen grab's been going in and around the Facebook groups. People were putting these suspensions on rank manipulation. So just want to get your take on this and where we are with things.
Okay. Well, it appears that the sky is falling. All right. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. My take. I don't want to presume that I know what Amazon's thinking. I don't want to presume that I know their motivation, but I've been in the game long enough to know to have seen cycles like this before.
Yeah.
Amazon will change a term or will change a functionality, and shortly after that, that particular term or functionality will put a stop to something, either a service or an action that Amazon no longer wants to see continuing, and people will be suspended for violating that. This is the cycle, right? This most recent rash of suspensions, and I'm not sure if they're suspending more than usual. I don't know, but I do know that more than usual now. It's getting a lot more media coverage, a lot more social shares. We're seeing, unprecedented levels of sharing on social media. So for that reason, it really does seem like it's happening a lot more. And unfortunately, it wasn't preceded by any obvious change in functionality or change in term. So it's like, what's going on? Everybody's kind of scrambling. They're freaking out. Unfortunately, this is leading to misinformation, people misreading their own interpretations of terms that have been clearly defined by many levels of Amazon and respected people who understand the type of thing in the industry for years now. So As far as my take, I don't actually know what their motivation is yet. Still gathering data to try and figure out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So the chat I had with Barkers last week when data was still being collected, at that point, it's seen 6 suspensions through using launch companies, non-launch companies, all of which were in supplements. Very, very small sample set, of course. All of which were in supplements. All the accounts were less than a year old. So you're still building upon that data at the moment, so we can make more informed decisions, right?
Yeah. So I've definitely seen people claim to have been suspended that are in other categories outside of supplements. So I don't think that was a valid common denominator at this point.
Yeah.
It does still appear to be newer listings, newer sellers, and then some people who have claimed that they have older listings, but that were not selling anything, and then they began promoting, and then suddenly they got suspended too. So it looks like it's heavily impacting people who essentially have or listings that are owned by sellers, and those listings essentially have no sales history, right? So those are the highest level of impact so far that we've seen. As far as what's triggering it, though, nothing in the terms of service as it's written right now is leading us to suspect anything concrete that would make sense. We have everybody for the company that I work with, and then many of my colleagues in this industry have at different times gone to Amazon, had different departments of Amazon directly define the terms. I know they're written vaguely, but if you actually try to talk to them and get to the bottom of it, what'll happen is in the very beginning of a big change, if you ask seller support and then have it escalated to, a different department, 5 different times, you'll get 5 different answers. However, over time, it's just because it's new to them too, right? So, Amazon's a big company. Yeah. But over time, they create an SOP. They put it in everybody's computer. They put it in the wiki, the database. Amazon has that. They work in a wiki system. They have a wiki. So they put it in the wiki. And then when you call and you ask them, what is this? And you do it 2, 3, 4 times and you get a consistent answer, it's because it's been established, right? Pretty much every line of the terms of service that are related to prohibited seller actions has been defined. So as it's written right now, without any changes, and it hasn't changed recently, there isn't anything to lead us to kind of know exactly where the violations are being triggered. We do know that there's wild speculation going out there about the triggers, many of which are not accurate because we're not seeing consistency enough, right? People want to blame URLs. That's not the case. We see people not using URLs getting suspended. We see people who are using a variety of different URLs. So that's definitely not it. On top of that, the search and browse conversation, I've actually had it with Amazon. I have screenshots. They define it. It has to do with what you put in your listing. It has nothing to do with URLs that you use to send traffic. So people want to say...
We do understand why people get upset. Let's break it down. So quite often what happens is someone will go onto Facebook and say they got suspended, but they don't know why and they didn't do this, that, and the other. You have no proof. All you've got is a paragraph of text with no information. There's no one to define it by looking under the hood. Now, when I've looked under the hood, under numerous accounts, I've seen hundreds of accounts overall, but in terms of doing like ranking, reverse engineering, trying to understand where things have gone wrong in terms of troubleshooting, I've seen dozens and dozens and dozens. And 9 times out of 10, it's related to something completely different. Often it's down to an insert. It's down to asking for reviews. It's the wrong verbiage on your inserts, those kind of things. That's what caused the problem. I've never seen it with down to the URL itself or using a particular service or not using a particular service. Do you see what I mean? But what gets frustrating and then it's hard for people is that if people are misinformed, then they spread it. And then what you got is a load of people that even launched the product before are talking about, giveaways don't work because they're parroting what they've heard someone else has said. Yeah. But you've also got to take into consideration as well, when you're doing a giveaway, there's so many moving parts, from the Facebook ads to the landing page to the coupon codes to the bounce rate on the landing page, all these different things that go into it. And I think people miss a lot of these steps. You can't be a gourmet chef overnight. And I think this is a sophisticated marketing strategy that when you break it down, there's a lot of moving parts that you need to configure and check all the way along the way. Like, you could literally make a checklist of 100 things from a launch, from advertising to the customer, to the click, to the conversion, to measuring those results after. If you wanted to sit down, you could literally have a full Trello board on it, couldn't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Not to scare anybody into thinking that it's like super complicated, but it's definitely got a lot of moving parts.
Steps. It's processes, isn't it? It's just understanding, having some processes in place.
Yeah. So, given that, I think my take on the situation, honestly, part of me is wondering if, just because of the inconsistencies and the fact that we can't find commonalities, which is unusual. It really is. It's actually unusual. The fact that we haven't been able to pin this obviously on anything, part of me almost wants to suggest the possibility that it's like Amazon messed up somehow. Like, maybe they triggered, like, put an algorithm in that was looking for something specific, but it's creating false positives, because a lot of people who are getting suspended, like, literally, this is the part that doesn't make sense. They'll run a promotion. That's the only thing that they're doing different, supposedly. Yeah. Same day they get suspended. Mm-hmm. 2 days later, after they write their own appeal, they get reinstated.
Yeah.
Like, when has that ever happened before? Right? Mm-hmm. How many times has Amazon, first of all, if you don't know what you're doing, you write your own appeal. They're like, nope. You got to write, until you.
People write love letters of anger, don't they? Then they don't realize that there's a structure in, like, your root causes and everything that goes into POA. Sorry, yeah.
Exactly, and that's the reason why these suspension prevention people make so much money, because most of the time Amazon will be like, no, that's terrible, and then you got to go pay $4,000 to somebody to write it for you, and it's like, but we're seeing their behavior's been so different, so I almost wonder if this isn't like we're seeing the worst of them correcting a problem. Now, if they're not correcting a problem and they are going after something, we have to assume that they're going to either change the terms or they're going to somehow enlighten us. Because, despite what the suspension people try to say, sellers aren't evil, gurus aren't evil trying to steer you down the wrong path, right? Like, all that is total BS. What we do is, when you refer to it as giveaways, but they're not actually giveaways. That's a completely different promotion type. Yeah. What we're talking about specifically about this argument is promotions. Yeah. And what we do is we take advantage of a promotion opportunity that Amazon gives us. They give us the ability to provide, money off coupons. What do they expect us to do with it? We give it to them to people because we're driving sales, and we're driving brand recognition. Amazon decides to increase rank for keywords when you do that. Amazon makes that decision. And Amazon's been playing around with their algorithm on how that happens too, like, we see it fluctuate in effectiveness based on, how long, how often, or how many are at a certain percent discount, etc. Amazon controls all that. So they're giving you the tools, and all you're doing is using them. For them to turn around and say, oh, but never mind, we don't like that. Like, that's kind of absurd. It's like, okay, what I'm saying is, if you're giving people coupon codes, you're not doing anything bad. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not trying to manipulate anything. If they're fake orders, then yes, you are. If one guy with 100 accounts is buying your product, then yes, you are. And that is defined in the terms very blatantly. But if you're trying to drive visibility, you're not doing anything wrong. Just for now, while things are uncertain, maybe diversify. I mean, there's still like a very small percentage of people that are getting suspended, right? Thousands of people are running promotions of all different kinds on every platform: Google, YouTube, Facebook, launch services, everywhere, constantly. A very small fraction of them are getting suspended, and they're getting reinstated pretty quickly, again, because possibly this is a correction phase, is something that went wrong. But either way, my advice now is the same as it's been, and it's diversify. Don't just run super deep discount. I mean, you don't want to like, that costs you money. That your product is also worth something. You don't want to, you run a 99% off discount for 2 months, you've essentially devalued the perception of your product in the marketplace, right? You don't necessarily want to do that. So maybe play around with the promotion amounts, play around with the traffic, right? You should be learning Facebook. Don't just rely on some services email list. Like, run some Facebook, try to find an influencer, like diversify your traffic, diversify your strategy, and just focus on actually building a brand. If you're doing everything because because you're trying to build a business and you actually have a good product and you care about your customers and you care about your customer support, and you happen to be one of the few unfortunate souls that gets suspended, man, there was nothing you could do to avoid that unless you want to just sit still and do nothing. That's
Cool.
that's what I think.
Just a quick top down, putting that wall between giveaways, doing the promotion, and asking for reviews, because that's asking for trouble, isn't it? Break down, a top line for people who are looking to do promotions and stuff. Just a few do's and don'ts. Things like the inserts, the wording, the verbiage on the inserts. If you're doing email sequences as well, think about what you're doing there in terms of if you're doing a deep discount and then you're trying to ask for reviews. These should never be in the same ballpark together. These should be treated as two isolated projects. So you need to make sure that you separate them with great distance.
Yes, because those terms are clear. Amazon. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that particular term is stupid. I think no other business in the world is penalized for asking for people's feedback and, enticing them to come and get your product at a discount and then asking them for feedback. That's how literally everybody does business all over the place, all over everything except for Amazon. It's the most preposterous and ridiculous, prohibited activity that they have. But be that as it may, they're very clear that they look at any discount as incentivization, and you can incentivize people to buy your product. That's okay. That's why they give you the ability to create a promotion in the first place, but you cannot incentivize them to leave you a review. And if you ask somebody that you have given this incentive to for a review, Amazon will likely connect those dots. Yeah. So in your feedback sequence, you should exclude people that are part of promotions, period, because that could get you in trouble. In your feedback sequence to organic buyers, you cannot ask people for a positive review. You cannot play with the hyperlinks either, where you send them to leave the review if it was a 4 or 5 star, and then send them to communicate with you instead if it's a 3, 2, or 1 star. Yeah. Amazon will catch that, and they will suspend you over it. I know people who have been suspended for that exact reason. Your inserts, they're actually looking at those now, and it's actually painted in the terms now. They will point that out. You are allowed to give an insert as of right now. They don't want you diverting traffic from Amazon, but as of right now, they don't seem to really get down on people who give branded information in their inserts. But what they will get down on is if your insert says, contact us here, scan this QR code, leave a review, show us proof, and we'll give you a free product. If they catch that, and this is how they catch it. They don't open your product. One customer turns you in. One competitor.
Or a competitor, That's the thing. They buy their products, they see the inserts, and then they report them. Yeah.
Then they open your product up. They confirm, oh, okay, this is legit. And then guess what? Boom, you're suspended. So just don't break those, don't break those rules. Those rules are honestly, their terms, they're terribly worded, but they actually have been defined. If you're confused, ask somebody that's been in the game for a while. They'll be able to tell you, this is what this means, this is what this means. But yeah, definitely put a wall between incentivization and reviews, because that's a no-no.
Cool. Well, let's wrap there. Let's talk about Seller Sessions Live in London. You're coming over, which incidentally doesn't have anything to do with giveaways in your in your talk, you're doing a keynote on psychological marketing triggers flows and that get you new customers and raving fans. Do you want to give a breakdown of some of the bullets that you'll be covering at the event?
Yes, yes. So my talk has nothing to do with giveaways. My talk is more foundational with regard to marketing strategies and why they work. So basically, I'll go over how the brain works and why people to help you understand why people buy, and then also help you figure out how to put them, like how they get put in a buying mood. And then I go over copywriting techniques that kind of help, even if you are a total novice, to turn your product into an irresistible offer, to basically take advantage of that psychological principle that gets the potential customer in a buying mood. Then my method for split testing Facebook ads so that you get the perfect advertisement to drive traffic to your product listing. Just because, if we know how the brain works, we know how to convince people that, they want to buy, we need to drive traffic to that. So, I help you with that. Then how to maximize average order value so that you earn more profit on each sale, even if you're running a deep discount launch. So actually the topic does go over some things that involve launch, or deep discount, but not much. Anyway, but how to build a funnel inside of ManyChat, inside of Messenger, how to get more verified Amazon reviews, how to get free traffic by turning your offer viral, how to turn the engine on that keeps people buying, reviewing, and sharing your brand and product. So like I said, very foundational stuff with regard to what works for certain marketing strategies.
Cool. And I'll be speaking, I'll be doing a presentation on PPC being the basically the science lab of your business, which I'll go into later. We've got Paul Harvey, we've got Evelyn Demirov, we've got yourself, obviously, Anthony, we've got Casey Goss from Viral Launch as well, and Athena Severi, she'll be co-hosting with me. The super early birds are sold out, and so is the early birds, but we've got general admission left. If you go to sellersessions.com/live, or you'll be able to click in the link below. There is a hidden discount code giving you 20% off the general admission. I'll be back soon. Take care, and thank you, Anthony.